In this lesson, we're going to be talking about finding who the speaker of a poem is, maybe why they wrote the poem. Was there a theme or lesson they wanted us to understand, and maybe who they wrote the poem for. So this is a poem that you've been reading this week already, titled New School. And if we were to give a quick summary about this poem, it's about a person who started at a new school and they're very upset and sad because they don't have any friends. They're not in school with their friends anymore. But as the poem goes on, they acquire a new friend and they have new friends throughout the poem, and then they become happy that they are at this new school, and they relax a little bit, and in the end they understand why their parents needed to move them to a new school, and they are okay with that. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the speaker of the poem. So there are many speakers of poems, and for you to figure out who it is, you want to infer and you want to use clues in your poem. So like when we read the poem 74th Street, we realized it was a little girl because they used she and they actually said little girl. Did we have a name for our speaker? No, but we could describe them. So in this poem, as you read, it's using I, and it's talking about a new school and friends. So we can infer that the speaker of this poem is a student at a new school, a young student. Does it say whether it is a boy or girl? Not really. There's no clues that talk about whether it's a boy or girl, but we just know that it's a young student. Now, if we were to think about our poem in the sense of what is the mood of the poem, how is the author using words to give off a mood? And if we look in our first two paragraphs, he's wondering if he'll fit in. He has loneliness. He doesn't talk as much. So the first part of the poem, he's very sad. It's somber. It's depressed, not very happy, he's lonely. But as we move through the poem, poems can have different moods. And, around the third stanza, he's acquired a new friend, and he's meeting lots of kids. He got to eat lunch together with a group of them, play some games. He's saying that his teachers adore him, that he speaks up in class. And so the mood has changed from that lonely, sad feeling to a happy, positive feeling. He's very positive. He has extra friends in two places. So the mood has changed from very sad to happy, from very lonely and somber to excited, positive, optimistic. So that's the mood of our poem. Another thing that we want to look at when we're thinking of our poem is there a theme or a lesson? So remember when we were looking at just texts, themes or lessons is what does the author want you to learn? What do they want you to take away after reading their poem? Almost why did they write their poem? And sometimes you'll find it by inferring throughout the text, and then sometimes it's at the end of the text. And so if we're looking at this poem, the last stanza says, "To my surprise, I found it amusing to be the new kid. I invented a whole new me. I am now content with that my parents moved us, and I recognize that it had to be. Sometimes changes are necessary, and there is nothing you can do but accept it and just be you." So in this particular poem, the theme and lesson, we can really take the inference of that from this last stanza. And the theme or the lesson is that sometimes changes are necessary, just like he said in the fifth line of that last stanza. Sometimes change has to happen. And if it does, accept it. Accept that change and learn to change with it or learn to grow with it. And so that would be the theme or the lesson of this story. Now, who would be the audience that you think maybe the author wrote for this story? Well, I would say the author probably wrote this for another student, but he could have written it for anybody because we all have changes in our lives. But I would say this would really help a student who's moving to a new school. This would help them with understanding that it's okay to have change and that, one day you will fit in and make friends at your new school. It won't always be lonely. Thanks for listening.